the land, right? I mean, as the hunt country shrinks, we are lucky to have this, around here. But I could tell you a little bit about the history of Groton House, if anyone is interested.
Yes.
All right. Well, this whole area, in like the turn of the 19th, 20th century, it was full of little farmers. But then it became places where the big families from Boston came out, just the way they did to Beverly Farms and Manchester and all that. I think that was fancier over there, what they call it, the Gold Coast over there. Mm-hmm. And but anyway, my family bought Groton House in 1904. 1904? Yeah. My father was born there in 1906. Anyway, Groton House itself was actually built by another family from around here called Shaw, who had a son who was a little bit whatever. And anyway, he married this very gorgeous lady from Virginia called Nancy Langhorne. This is maybe interesting, maybe not, it's ancient history. And they had a rocky marriage from the start. And so the family of the Shaws said, well, what they need is a country house. So they built Groton House. But they never lived there. Because I think things broke up even before that. Before that happened. And so then my grandfather bought it. And there were, I think there were 140 acres that went with it in the very beginning. That's what they bought. And since then, my father bought it from his father's estate in 33, I think. And there's all the land around of the little farms that came up for sale. Like there was a farm on Jack Hill, there was a farm across the street. Where the doggy parking is? That used to be a little farmyard. In my lifetime, actually, that was a little farmyard. And the Tappan field that we have, that was the Tappans lived there. And anyway, as these little things came up, my father, who though he wasn't a country guy to begin with, he lived in Boston until he was an adult, really, and went to Harvard and all that stuff. And but he got sort of really obsessed with land conservation all his life, literally all his life. But that was kind of the beginning of it. And so he bought for the 100-year everything surrounding it, which was pretty amazing. And then where the Masseys live now, which by the way has been sold. But it sounds sort of promising, maybe. She's a birder, so that's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
But anyway, so then that whole area belonged to Mrs. Davidson, whose house, the Massey's house, used to be George Horne's house, if anyone remembers that.
Yeah.
And it used to be on the street, then it was moved back there by her. But anyway, long and short, my father bought everything up to that. And so there really must have been 350 acres on this side of the river. Then after the war, Turner Hill, which is the golf course now and all that thing, was that came up for the Rices related to the heirs. That was sold, and my father, and a developer was about to buy it, and my father said, I can't stand it, so he bought it, and so that's why we happen to own both sides of the river. But he was really into conservation.
It's amazing.
One of the slowly died. But anyway, so that's kind of the story of our property. And then there was, of course, Appleton Farms, which belonged to Colonel Appleton, who was, he was a million years old, always. He was, anyway, he died childless, and so that's when the trustees took that up. So that's safe. And of course, we've got Riley Palmer and the Willowdale Woods. So we really are in an amazing kind of band of countryside. And I think that it's important to us, anyway, to keep the use of it. We're thrilled that the hunt uses it. I wish you'd use it more. I wish more people would ride through, because it's really fantastic that we are lucky enough to have this land. Because a lot of cunts have lost all their territory, which is a sad thing. But anyway, to get how we got into the horsiness. I don't, as I said, I don't think my father was much of a country guy until, they were here in the summers, but he basically was in school in town and all this kind of. But when he married my mother, who was a Brit, and very country British, obsessed with animals and horses and everything like that. I think she's the one who really got him going. And he actually became MFH at the end of the 30s, I think, like 1940 or something like that. There's a picture, Suzanne, I forgot to bring it. There's a picture of him with the hounds in, I think it was at a meet in New Hampshire or something like that. But all these incredibly antique cars that you just can't, I should have brought that thing over because it was a pretty amazing picture. But so he was MFH from sort of maybe 1940 until he went to the Pacific in the war. He was in the Army. And Mrs. Prince, does anyone remember Mrs. Prince?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, she became the MFH during the war years. And she was, side saddle and all. It was, I don't know how many people here remember even Pansy. Pansy's been around now for 4 years. Yeah. Well, she was one of the Prince family, and they were a very big, horse family. But anyway, my mother made sure that we all rode ponies, and my sister and I, it took. My brothers, not so much. Except one of them became a polo player. But, so we always had ponies. My mother started Pony Club around here. Wasn't that right? Her and Mrs. Sears started Pony Club. And we had a thriving Pony Club for a long time. But I don't know what, it just dissolved. Nobody sort of needed it or wanted it. We had 100 and some members.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And do you remember that? Everyone remember Pony Club? No,
Yes,
it's been gone a long time. Which is kind of
Your
cute.
own Carol Greta, didn't she have it for a while?
Maybe she did.
Yeah.
She was
Yeah,
at
over there in
Pony Club.
Ipswich.
In Ipswich, Indian Ridge.
Maybe
Farm.
she did, but what I think happened, and this leads into another sort of subject. This, of course, became the center of eventing for a while in this country.
Yeah.
Because we had the USCT over in Clark land, and but this is what happened to Pony Club, I think, because when we had all those people here, people took private lessons from them, and so what do they need with Pony Club, so that was sort of the end of that. But we did have probably one of the first events in this country here at Groton House in 1957. And I think there had been one or two or something in the country, mostly at military bases, because it was always a military thing, eventing. And so they ran it, an event was run here. My sister and Colonel Appleton both had been to England and seen badminton, which had just started. And they were obsessed, and so they decided we have to have one here. And that was really kind of the beginning of eventing here. And then when we came back from Europe in the late 70s, we started up the event again. And believe it or not, until the pandemic, we ran it for 42 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
It went on and on.
So great.
So I don't know. What more can I tell you about the land, Susanna? Oh yes. There is something important. Susanna's property here was like the Scott's property. I don't know which was more recent, and that was when those things came up for sale. A bunch of the landowners here, like my father, her father, and various other people, Gilbert Stewart and people like that, created this syndicate which bought these properties and waited and held them and paid the taxes on them until the right person came along to buy them. And so along came Mr. Lawrence and bought this here. This used to belong to a family called Alley. And I remember when we were tiny, we used to, and the house was empty up there. We used to go up there and snoop around. We did.
There were people camping out in it.
But you know, I mean, this is the same thing happened with the Scots. I can't remember, you know more about that than I do, because I think I wasn't here at that point, but, people got together and bought the Scott property. It was called Friends of Scott property or something, until Mr. Massey came. No, Mr. Massey was there, but until my brother, I guess, bought it from the syndicate. And that's where my nephew lives now, Frederick and Alice. And, but anyway, we just need to keep the land. I don't know what's happening to the Gil Stewart place. What is happening? Do we know?
I don't know why that's been on the market for a weirdly long time. So I can't seem to find out from any of the neighbors what is going on, because whether the house is not in good shape, or not.
It's not in good shape?
I don't know whether that's the problem, because it's been posted for sale. And I called Lois Justin the other day to ask her, she didn't seem to know.
Really?
Yeah, so I guess
But
I
he
have to
lived there
call
for a while.
Cammy, I'll call Cammy Stewart.
Okay. But anyway, we're hoping we'll save that, but it's not used much anymore, but the hunt used to go across,
The bridge.
Yeah, across Asbury Street,
And it
into Stewart land, and then down along the river. Actually, we went across the river, didn't we?
yeah,
Yeah, which is now a development.
yeah, we used to ride in Mass Audubon.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, we'd go over on the bridge.
Yeah.
Occasionally the bridge would break.
And of course, Tingley Land, Flying Horse was undeveloped in those days, and you could ride everywhere.
Yeah,
But we still are luckier than a lot of places in that we do have land. And I just want everyone to know that, honestly, I love seeing people ride by my house. And our property is open to equestrians. I mean, they do have the seasonal closure, but you can still use the driveways.
Right.
And so don't be discouraged by it all, but you know, there is some land still.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
So this is just because my memory could be wrong. So speaking of your trials, and when you were talking about eventing that went up for the past 40 years, back in the 90s, I bumped into you at the Black Cow. I already had Glamour Girl, and I swear to God, I don't know if I'm making this up, but in my brain, I think you were with Princess Anne's ex-husband, Captain Mark Phillip, and he was here helping you with the course.
See, what he does
No,
is,
that was
no. Well,
Who
yes.
was it?
No, the thing is,
That's
that
what I
you're
did.
course designing. You have to have your course inspected and okayed and everything like that. And so there was, Mark Phillips was one of the people who did that. And the other one was Derek DeGrazia, I think, but that was more recently.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
But that's why he used to come here.
That's what I was wondering when you were having lunch at the Black Cow. I just remember, like, you know what I mean? Like, it was kind of neat.
But let me tell you something, I took him to the airport, and he left his jacket in the back seat of my car with his passport in it.
Oh no!
But of course, he somehow got on the airplane, and
Oh my
you have to be
gosh.
important, I guess, or royalty
Yeah.
or something like that.
Do you still have his passport?
No. I give it to Karen Stives to do something about it.
Well, I mistakenly, to Fariel, is Fariel here? I mistakenly called him Prince Mark Phillip, and Fariel, being a Brit, like, basically, like, brought the guillotine to me. She was just like, he's not a
Never
royal,
was.
never was, always a captain. But I remember making that little blunder to a very staunch Brit. And,
I forgot completely about having lunch with Mark Phillips in the cow.
yeah, yeah, the old cow.
Remember what
Yeah.
you ate? That was it, but it was the Hunt is In.
No, actually, it was the Black Cow at this time. It had moved, it already changed
Yeah.
hands to the Black Cow.
That's right. Well,
This was the-
yes, it was no longer.
It was like
obviously.
1997.
Yes, it wasn't 90, cause.
No, it was the
We
90s.
had the last event at.
Yeah, no, it was the 90s. It was like
Even
90s.
the old numbers in, even before the Black Cow?
Yes, it was. Yeah, before the
He
Black
still
Cow.
does a lot of courses.
Oh,
He
yeah.
does the Devon, he does a lot of arena events
Yeah.
now, cause I
Yeah.
always see him in Ocala.
The one who did?
Yeah,
He does he does a lot of course design for arena eventing.
Oh, I
which
know.
is taken right off, and they always do one at
That's-
Devon, and
that's-
he always
doesn't have
does
to
that.
walk too far.
Yeah.
right,
And you can just watch it and it just goes, and they're done.
yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah. But see, this is what's happening in a lot of places, is that as they lose space. for the-
Yeah.
And this is another thing about eventing that makes me crazy, because we worked so hard building our courses.
Yeah.
Now, everyone gets portables built and they just kind of move them around. Whereas, you know, we dug posts.
Yeah. When were yours installed? Because they are so beautiful. And
Well, the thing is, that's why it's changed. I mean, people have
Yeah.
less space, and so they have to
right.
put it like a ring almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But no, but really, Garden House was one of the very first. And Area 1 was a huge
Yeah.
center of
Hotbed.
eventing, but, you know,
Yeah.
and now it's nothing. It's kind of sad.
It is sad.
It really is. But, I just hope that the hunt will continue to use the place as much as they ever want, and I love to have them there. But does anyone have any questions that I can tell them about anything? And if it's ancient stuff, Susanna can have them.
She's much older than
I just,
Wait a minute, we might know that.
I just want to know what some of your favorite memories or stories are of all that you've seen that you've been at Groton House. You know,
Well,
it's
yeah, I
amazing.
wasn't absent from, well, you see, I was here until I was about sort of early teenager, then you gotta go to boarding school, then you gotta go to college, and then I lived in Europe for 15 years. So there was a big lapse there when I was not here. But, you know, every time I came home, if the horse was still going, or I would hunt or ride or do something like that. My sister was really a better rider than I was. She probably was less daring, crazy, I guess is the word.
Definitely.
But she was way more polished, and she would always ride at the Myopia Horse Show in the, you know, equitation classes and win like crazy. I never did. But I had a lot of fun eventing, and I had a lot of fun hunting. And you know, when my father came back from the war and they started to hunt up again, they actually had a drag out and a live hunt. And he was co-MFH with a guy called George Clement. Anyone remember even that name?
Wow.
Lived up in that yellow place on Sagamore.
Yeah.
Anyone remember that?
Over by Sagamore, yeah.
What was it called again?
A house?
Yes, that property. Anyway, but in those
C.C.
days,
Ives'
I
old
do
place?
remember as a kid, and I really think that was a lot of fun. But nobody had a trailer, so you hacked to the meets, no matter where. And if you can imagine hacking to Sagamore from us, in the freezing cold early morning, it was not fun. I mean, getting there wasn't fun.
Susanna speaks
But-
of that too. You know, trailers and.
Well, you know, you could go, we went from Groton House, we went across Appleton Farm, where Sagamore Farm Road is now, that was all country. And then we, you know, go across and straight on up to Sagamore. Everything was wide open.
You'd start at 3 or 4 in the morning in the dark.
It was really, and it was so cold, I just remember that. And of course, you know, on a little pony that's,
Yeah.
these little weenie steps. But you know, here's another thing, in the like 40s and 50s, I guess, we still had terrific Irish horsemen and grooms who worked here. And all the sort of hunt families had that.
I need one of
You
those.
know, there were the Howrans and Keoghs and McCarthys and everybody. And we had a guy who had actually worked for Colonel Colby way back, who was called Mike Cullinane. And he was fantastic. And he was with us for a long time. In fact, he died in the cottage at Groton House in the same
Oh
cottage.
my God.
I mean, and he took care of ours, and we learned. We really did.
Didn't he do the polo too? Was he a
Oh
polo?
yeah, when Adam took up polo, we
Yeah.
went around with him. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he took care of everything. He was really great. But they were really real horsemen, those guys. They were really something. And
In the wintertime, they used to sit around a pot-bellied stove and talk, and we as kids would sit in a circle around them, and that's how we found out, you know, how to take care of a horse.
yeah.
They were just incredible, and they were so helpful.
And they really literally worked from dawn to dusk. I mean,
Yeah.
they just worked hours and hours and hours, because they took such good care of horses. But there just aren't any more of those guys anymore,
You know, they're all
which is
gone.
kind of too bad.
Remember when they lived in the little cottages at the bottom of Silly's Hill. There were those little camps.
But I remember that Mike lived in your red house here.
Oh, yes, he was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they had no water there at all. And his daughter became one of my best friends. She was a little older than me and she was big as that. And she used to have a wooden yoke on her shoulders, around her neck, and she'd go over to the well. There's still the stone foundation is still there across the street from the barn, and haul the water across the fields because nothing was fenced then. And then
I don't
every
remember you
Saturday
hearing
night,
about it.
they pour it into a feed tub on the kitchen floor, and that was her bath for the week.
Wow.
Wow.
I just couldn't believe that something so small could carry something so big like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Things were a little primitive.
Well, he took good care of us and he made us learn to ride. I mean, I suppose he wasn't a classically trained equestrian, but he was a real horseman.
But he really took
But
wonderful
everyone, I
care.
mean, the heirs had somebody, Irish, everyone, they'd all come, in this sort of immigration and then there was just kind of
Yeah.
Irish people, but now that sort of generation is long gone.
And you had a breeding program too.
I did. When we came back from living in Europe in like the late '70s, I got into breeding horses, and we had some good ones. I had one that went as a jumper
Wow.
with Joe Farges to Argentina and all kinds of places. I mean, in Mexico and everything like that. But and I had. Well, I didn't have any other big super champions, I don't think. But anyway, it was fun raising them, and it was nice to have the foals. We had good ones.
And when did you stop?
Oh, that's right. I bred one that she had.
What?
You still have one?
No,
One's
she's
left,
gone
right?
to God. Oh, what? I've got
one left.
I've got two left.
Two, oh, right, two.
3.
That's with mine.
What
Yeah.
breed did she?
Yes. I have Noah, Jonah,
Oh, no, I don't.
and Eve. Yes.
Yeah, you still have, right, Eve and.
Yeah. But it was fun and it was nice and I loved it. Sometimes we had as many as 5 foals a year. But anyway,
Yeah.
long and short, I just think it's so great that the hunt carries on, and I'm glad that we have the land for it, and I just welcome everybody to come and ride at Groton House.
Can I ask you a
It's
question?
sure useful for us with your driveways in the winter and everything. Yeah, thank
So
you.
if anyone wants to ask me anything about
Is there
anything,
anything from the past that you see that we're not doing today that can promote and help the hunts that has gone down, that we've forgotten about, that are good things?
well,
that-
of course, it's all changed, and as I said, the people who worked for the hunt, and do you remember, there was a guy who was the drag layer guy, Chuck Haley.
Chuck
Oh, yeah.
Haley.
And he did this for years and years, forever and ever and ever and ever. But what I'm saying is all those old guys who were the grooms and the people who took care of the horses are just long gone. There just isn't that population anymore.
So under what condition can we inspire new riders, people, the modern man, to be interested in this?
Well, as I said, I haven't personally been that closely involved with the hunt in a long time, so I think it looks like it's carrying on pretty darn well with, as it is, But as I say, it's a new era and a different kind of population, and we don't have the help that we used to have.
One thing we did have was the older generation.
Yes, there was. My father's generation, and even older, like
Yeah.
Charlie Bird
Yeah.
and people like that. Yes, we did. We had all the big landowners who were really into the horse sports in those days. I mean, the Walding Field, and that's pretty scary. What's being threatened over there?
Yeah.
The Wolcotts, the Birds, the Wolcotts, Appletons,
And the heirs.
Stewarts, heirs,
I mean, when I started,
Rices. Yeah.
these were the people that took care of the kids. I don't know, maybe you were doing more eventing then, because if you didn't have a parent with you, and you were 8 years old, and you were
Oh, yes, there was-
terrified, and you didn't have a groom, you know, we didn't have a trailer, we didn't have anything. But my father was doing the hounds for Ann's father. So the minute the war was over and they all came home, that's when the hunt started up again, and I was
yeah.
8. And it was, you'd be old Fred Air and old Charlie Bird
Yes.
took the kids. And they were so kind and so welcoming, and they taught us the manners.
They did.
And they said, and if you make a mistake, and it causes a problem, you will have to go home. Well, I had to hack home from BOS Newbury or something, and I didn't even know where I was.
No, there were older people who guided the younger ones, and it was really very good.
And that I really remember so strongly. And they were kind and they were fun, but then we had Betty Ellis, who was
Yeah, she was pretty severe
master.
to the kids.
And she rode huge Canadian horses, and she had a fierce voice. And I remember one day I had way too many kids with me, and Ann's daughter, Emmy, I think, was on the little Connemara horse, and that disappeared out of my pack in the back. I mean, it wasn't easy to ride a thoroughbred, but you couldn't ride anyway, and be looking backwards all the time to see how many kids you'd lost. And she came back through all the hunts saying, "Whose child is this?" Holy shit.
She was scary. She was very scary.
Scary.
And poor little
Scary.
Emmy, trembling on her little.
Who couldn't even speak English at that point.
Terrifying. Nation.
That was the kind of thing that we had, was that incredible generation. And they really taught us the manners. They taught us, don't crowd up on the horse in front, leave plenty of distance, wait till the horse in front goes over the jump before you even present to the jump. And that's how we learned, right then and there.
You know, one thing I did sort of forget to go on about a little bit. When we did have fox hunting, and starting like after the war until I don't know what, just for a few years, but we did have both a drag hunt and I remember riding that pony April. Do you remember that one?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess on your first one, when they have a kill, then you get blooded, so they smear blood on you. And somebody gets the brush, which is the tail, or the mask for the face. What else is there? The paws. What do they call that? I don't know. Pads or something. But I remember that, and where they got the fox was right in the a long black brook right there, just a little over that way, and that's all I remember about the fox hunting.
Yeah, the fox that I was blooded with was in downtown Hamilton, and I think it was in that corner of the streets there opposite the truck place, which was a kennel, a dog kennel with fencing. And they blooded us with behind where the supermarket is now, in that parking lot.
Oh,
there. Yeah, and you know, just
Yeah, that was
really,
good.
this is really interesting, little side, it's not my turn to talk yet, but the other day I saw a fox down the lower field. Has he been to your house? Black tail, black along his back, beautiful.
Black.
Yes.
Interesting.
And I thought, how the shit did I ever think it was fun to hunt a fox?
Well, there are so few now. But no, we have two, what I want to call them, bunches of them, families.
Coyotes or
One of them under the sign shed over at the farm,
yeah.
and the other one up by my mother's old donkey barn.
Yeah.
And in the morning you see them there, and then they're there, and then they grow up and
That's
they leave.
cool. That's great.
Yeah.
And you never see them again, almost.
Yeah.
But it is pretty amazing that we had the country to follow a fox, and that we had the foxes, you know, as
That's
well as the drag hunt. And the drag hunt always did go far afield, like to West Newbury and places like that. And I think there was something they did up in New Hampshire. what that picture was.
Yeah, there was somebody up there that invited everybody to go up there. But riding, we used to be invited to ride with Chuck as he was dragging the line.
Yes.
And it was really an interesting experience. And I can remember the hounds always followed it. And then we took up running. We were all running and dragging the line.
Yes, that was Russell's idea.
That was Russell.
That was crazy. You had to make like a fox
Pain.
along stone walls. And
Well,
everything.
yes, you had to go in all kinds of weird places that a horse wouldn't go. And then people had the, what do you call it? The ATVs.
Yeah.
Yes. And the wetlands.
And now they're back to normal, right?
Yeah.
Letting the drag off horse.
Yeah. They worked so hard at doing that, but it was just that one man, and he was very old, I think, when he was.
Well, he
doing
got
it.
old, as do we all.
Yeah.
But, no, he did. He did it 3 times a week, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it was twice. Was it?
There's a portrait of him in the club.
Is there?
Yeah.
Of him?
Yeah.
All
Of Chuck
dressed up
Haley.
in his coat and everything?
It is vest and bandana looking kind of like a reprobate.
Who was this?
Of Chuck Haley?
When?
There's a picture hanging in the club of him.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Probably Mr.
That's a
Haley.
question for Kim, because one of his relatives contacted her once about that, and she found it too, and she was just like, yes, it's here.
Yeah.
Yes, it's here. I walked past it a million times, I didn't know.
Right.
Oh.
Is he in the color of the painting or something?
Yeah, it's a formal portrait.
Of Chuck Haley? And where in the club? Where?
It was hanging in that room that overlooks the one front patio?
Yeah, it was in the
Used to
men's
be-
dining room for a long time. I don't know where it would be now. I haven't
It
really
might
paid
be.
attention
Is
to
it
it.
in
Kim
the-
would
in
know.
the
Kim's
red
catalog, all that. Sorry?
Is it in the red room?
It wasn't, it was further down, it was in the men's dining room. I feel like it was, I feel like it was in there, it could be in the red room now, but Kim, she would tell you exactly where it was, she's cataloged all that stuff,
Yeah,
Just
I
red.
have to call her
yeah,
now.
yes, yes.
I could tell you something else that has nothing to do with horses, whatever. But the Nancy who was supposed to live at Groton House with her husband
Nancy's
Sean,
Corner.
Yeah.
they broke up, and she went to England. You guys are probably too young to know anything about this
I know
person.
what
But then she married somebody called Waldorf Astor, and she became Nancy Astor, who was the first lady member of Parliament. And the best story I know about her, of course she was really a pain in the butt. I mean, she was, pretty nasty, she was tough. And she once said to Winston Churchill, if I was married to you, I'd put poison in your tea. And he said, Madam, if I were married to you, I'd drink it. But anyway, that was Nancy Astor.
That's
Who
great.
never lived in Groton House.
Wow.
What is, and the foundation of the barn on that corner there, whose was that?
Oh,
And what
Arthur, that was the
history?
Nancy Corner barn.
Mhm.
And I don't know, I think it maybe belonged to Colonel Colby, you've heard of him, years ago. But it did belong to my family, and that whole corner and the fields behind it down to the bend is our property too. And it was a super barn, and we used to store hay in it. It even had a hay blower, and somebody burned it down. So that's why the foundation remains. Everything else is gone.
Such a sturdy foundation, it's such a.
I know, I
Just,
know.
I don't have any recollection, or I've never seen an
No,
image
it
of
was
it
a
with
long
it
time. I
open up.
wasn't in this country at that point, so it must have been in the early 70s, something
It's a
like that.
beautiful barn, old
Oh.
barn. I remember the night it burned up.
Well, I wasn't here. I didn't.
Yeah, we were driving down from somewhere and all I saw was this huge red glow and I thought it was my barn.
It's kind of
Terrifying.
surprising how many barns burned down. When
Yeah.
you get right down to it.
Legend
We had
too, right?
we had a huge stable, same architecture as the big house, and where the horses lived for a long time was just a little machine shed that was taken over because there was nothing else. But that one burned down, Neil's farm burned down, Pingree farm burned down, Reynolds farm burned down. I don't know why this was. People had hay not properly dried or what, I don't know.
Well, I always thought the barn on
oats.
that corner burned down because of those homeless guys, you know, what's his name? What was the name of the man that used to move around with his little tent?
The which guy?
The homeless guy.
Oh, yeah, they used
Oh,
to
no,
walk
the-
on one A.
Oh,
Yeah.
you mean the
yeah,
man
he's-
who had the sort of duffel bag with a
Yeah,
man?
yeah, yeah.
Right,
Yeah, and then he'd have his little campfire.
right,
Oh, I don't think he had anything to do with that. He was
Well,
never
it
this
said
far out of
It
town.
was quite suspicious.
Oh, I don't think so.
Oh, yes.
Well,
I wonder
anyway.
what happened.
Expand your thinking. There were a couple of those guys around. And it gets out of control.
Yeah, there was this kind of guy, and he was a war veteran
Yeah.
who wasn't quite right. And
Someone
you used
said
to-
he was
you'd
a
see
war
him on the
veteran,
side
that's
of the
right,
road, with his duffel bag.
Right, poor thing, yeah.
I want to say his name was
Sad.
Gary or something.
What was his name?
Hmm?
Do you know what his name was?
I can't remember his name, I think I only
Yeah,
know
it
his
was
first name.
it was weird, and I don't know where he actually did live, if he lived anywhere.
He had one name, we used to call him one name.
It was one name, yeah, I can't remember what it was now either.
It's annoying.
And poor thing, he used to back up and down one A and into the woods by the schooling field and with his duffel bag and,
And the
think-
police were well aware of him and
oh yeah.
tried to help him.
Yeah,
Well, I think they felt if he stayed out of trouble. I don't believe he had anything to do with these fires.
I don't think he was, I don't think he was
I just
destructive.
So last week, Dougie made it sound like the hunts themselves went on for 6 hours or more, depending
What, the
on.
fox hunt?
Yeah.
I don't really remember if it went that long, but they could go long, you know,
Long.
because once they'd get onto something, they'd follow it, and then they'd lose it, and then they'd recover
Oh, yeah.
the trail or something.
Yeah.
I just don't remember that very clearly.
Yeah.
I was quite young at that point. I mean, I think that was even before I went to boarding school, so I don't know that.
We would
But,
just hack home when we got fed up.
But a lot of people of the sort of old families did hunt, and the women too. My mother hunted for a while. Your mother hunted?
Yeah, she roadside saddle.
Yeah.
And a lot of them came to England too, because that's how I knew Russell and Don and Betty and John when John Ellis was young.
Yeah.
And they used to come over. They all had horses with us.
They did. That's right.
They were a great group of people. They were
Yeah.
so helpful. They loved having the bigger the field, the better. They really looked after, especially the women after our being brought up by the older men. Then when I had all these little children misbehaving and everything behind me, they would, one or two or three of them would always say, Sears and Hogan and one other of the older women, they always had very, very good horses, and they would always say, take my back, you know, just keep your kids behind you, and I'll lead you on and tell you if there's any problems.
No, it was very regimented, shall we say,
Yeah.
too. You had to sort of keep your place.
Yeah, and you had to be very careful about gapping, you know, and not causing a problem anywhere. So you always had to be speaking to people about what you were planning to do.
Mm-hmm.
The left, the right, the gap, you know, I'm going over the big side, the little side, whatever. So it was very comforting to someone like me because my dad was up with her dad. And my mother was falling off everywhere. And if he had the horse that carried the side saddle, she had to ride astride and she couldn't stay on astride.
Well, I can't imagine riding side saddle. I
No.
never could believe that
No,
was
horrible.
There are
The
photographs, which you may have seen, of Mrs. Prince. Have you seen the jumping these things? I can't imagine it. I just really can't. But you know, myopia, in those days, and Mrs. Story, she was she took the names and all that, but she also kept a book in a club called the Carpet Club, where you had to pay $5 if you fell off. And there was quite a few people in the garbage.
That's right.
And I don't know what happened to that book. There was a really a sort of, you know, diary thing of the runs, right? The run book.
Maybe that's what Kim was
Does
having.
it exist?
Yeah.
Kim she's gone, many of those things for some reason, maybe during one of the renovations of the club, ended up at the PBD Essex Museum in their archives. And she didn't, and no one really knew where all this stuff went. And after a while, time goes by, nobody even knows what to look for, right? So, but Kim went down there and spent days in the archives of the PBD Essex and found a lot of really interesting old stuff.
Really?
It would be fascinating to, I'll have to send her over to talk to you
How
someday
did it get
about it.
down there?
It was given the club, and no one really knows. She went back, manager for manager, and nobody really remembers who did it. But at some point in the 70s, there were just all these boxes, and they just took them to the PBD Essex.
Oh, no
Here.
kidding. Well, somebody
Yeah.
else
So
will
she's spending
investigate.
6 or 8 hours
Oh,
at a time
okay.
sitting in
Yeah.
a chair, sorting it and cataloging it.
Have
Yep.
you looked at them?
No, I haven't, but she's
She
been
sent
telling
me
us
some
hers. It's
images, but I
amazing.
know that she had some of those old run books.
Right.
And Holly Pulsifer had some kind
And
of
Holly
interesting
had some
ones.
as
So
well.
that was more of a journal that someone
Right.
kept, but fascinating stuff.
Holly had, what did she have, and where did that go? They just left.
I gave that to Kim.
Kim has
Yeah.
gotten, Holly sort of, I have the pennies, if you do an inventing thing, we have myopia pennies in my living room. But she gave a lot of that to Kim, so her stuff is there. So, and Kim has really been doing all this organizing of all the documents, the pictures, the run books, everything. She spends hours there.
Really?
It's the history of
We'll
the
get her
club
to
at
do a
large.
presentation maybe
She
after.
would. Oh, it was fascinating.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I was at Holly's house, and Holly said, "Do you like books? You can have all these books." And she had
Yeah.
this big stack of
Oh,
books.
my
They
goodness.
were fantastic. And I started looking through, and then I just was like, I need to make a phone call. And I'm like, Kim, I can't take these books. You need to see them.
A lot of,
You know,
a
this
lot of them
a
went
lot
to
of
the,
stuff
to the
belongs
club.
to the club. Like I said, this
Yeah.
isn't. This
Well, I
is
think
too.
you should retrieve them.
Well, Kim, they're at the
They-
yeah.
And somebody should sort of go.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Kim-
what
Kim
Kim
is
is
doing.
doing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was like, Kim. You need to
It's-
take these because this is your project that you're taking on. So.
So maybe we
You
can
need
get her
to
at
stop.
some point to do an update for
But I
everybody.
mean, you said some of them are at the museum?
Well,
The
some of the-
archives were stored there, all the books and all the materials were given to the museum accordingly, and Kim found out that they were there, and so she's been plowing through all the boxes.
most of what's at the
Gee.
museum is documents, which are, historical, which are interesting in their own right, the
Yes,
original
sure,
documents for the
but
school.
not
you have
quite the same as
original-
the hunt records, or the hunt
Right,
diary.
right, and I'm not really quite sure how much of it you really get back from PBD Essex, but you can, certainly,
Well,
Yeah,
in this
images
day and
of
age,
it.
you can sure get prints.
yeah, exactly,
Right,
exactly.
well,
All
I
types
think
of
she's
stuff.
getting them things copied or scanned, and she's been doing some of that.
You should make a book
I know
out
there
of
was a
it.
ton of stuff
I didn't know.
upstairs
She
in the
made a book of
club,
the
because we were looking at old, that's where she got the
Amazing.
photograph for the
Amazing.
ball invitation once, it was up in the attic at Myopia, so, but I think she's doing a fabulous job of organizing
Well,
all
that's
that,
good.
so, yeah.
Great.
Maybe it's in the mysterious red room.
Say what?
There's this room that a lot of history has come out of called the Red Room.
Well, that's
Oh,
that-
yes, right. That was in the men's department, wasn't it?
Yes, yes.
Well, it's that first room on the left, but
Left.
Kim has kind of made that kind of a hunt room too, and she likes to put different sort of things in there that, that would be more interesting, to people. So that's great.
She's gotta give a tour.
She does, she absolutely does.
So Mary, can you tell us anything about what's happened? There's a Pulsifer soul?
Yes, the Pulsifer's house has sold to a couple from Hamilton with 3 young children, and the kids have started doing some writing. I think with Amy Halgren,
Oh, yeah?
Sarah's been involved with them. They're really nice. I've met them. The kids are great, and they were chasing their dog down the road today. But I think they're going to do a really nice job on the property. And
Excellent.
I'm really excited. Yeah.
Okay, that's
And
good.
Holly and Nat are off and running, and some of us have been staying in contact with them. It's we're missing them terribly.
Oh, my
Where did they
God.
go?
I
Yeah.
can't-
They're in.
Oh,
They
man.
moved to a senior community up in Maine, which
Yes.
is really near Alyssa.
Oh, right.
And
okay.
but Holly's.
Topsom.
Pardon me?
They were in Topsom.
Yeah. Yeah. Far, 2 hours. And I just must say, my husband has become the new Waldingfield eggnog, guru.
Oh, good.
They came down, Nat gave a course on how to make his eggnog, which God is scary, but nobody's died from it all these years, so we're assuming it's okay. And we have a little bit left in the fridge when he comes down in a couple weeks. Yeah.
Will it last that long?
Scary.
Holly must be really
So
unhappy.
sad.
with me.
Yeah.
I drive by there and
Terrible.
hate to think about it.
Did they have any horses left, or were they all gone?
All gone.
Yeah.
Pokey was laid to rest there, and her little Minnie, who she said she'd never ride a Minnie in her whole life, ended up being bought by a family, so
Oh, good.
it had a good place.
Well,
And I have to tell you one Holly story. Holly admitted, I asked her, Holly, we've been trying to research anybody when they got their colors. And so I asked Holly, did you ever get your colors? She said, no, because I only ride gray ponies and they were always dirty. And I never got my colors. I said, well, how long was that? Maybe we could rethink that. No, they were always dirty.
And that'll do it. That'll do it.
Must be that.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my God.
But she did
Oh
give
my
us some
God.
nice
But you know,
items,
she
and we
did
do
write
have
in
the
the century thing.
Huh?
Yeah.
She wrote in the century thing.
And she wrote this, it was the best thing. Yeah,
And she went gray.
and she,
it
that's
was
her
clean.
pony, actually, that's her pony.
That's Micah.
That's Micah,
We're hoping to get her down for one of the fireside chats too.
yeah.
Oh, good.
She
She
loved
thought
That
she
would
loved
be
it.
amazing. Yeah.
But she's doing all right.
Yeah, that's a good idea. How long, but is what, a couple of hours away?
Yeah,
It's West
Nat
New-
promised it.
Portland, right?
Yeah, Nat promised that she could come down, and that they would come down regularly, so we'll see.
Does anyone know what the situation is with Waldingfield?
Oh boy.
I'm a plaintiff, not allowed to discuss it, it's, I don't know.
Oh my God.
You don't know?
You're sworn to
Oh.
secrecy?
No, I just can't really talk about it, I don't really know, I know, only know that our, process was denied by
No, I know that.
and I don't know what's going on after that.
Okay.
I've tried to talk to them, but good luck.
Yeah.
Well, I do know what's happened to Massey, if anyone wants to know.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I heard a couple of those birds, right?
I called, you see, I felt like a lousy neighbor. I think I wasn't here that much when they first moved in, and anyway, so we just weren't very neighborly, and I don't think I ever met Mark Massey, but I got to know Elizabeth, and so I finally called her and everything, asked her what the hell was going on, and she told me about all these people. And the place has been bought by people who've retired in their mid-50s because they're so successful. He was the financial everything officer for Under Armour worldwide,
Wow.
previous to which he worked for Adidas shoe thing. She is, he's German. She is a Mexican-American lawyer. She does have Massachusetts roots somewhere. And she's a birder, so that's a good thing. You know, the country, you know, interested in it. And
Doesn't
I-
really lend
they
itself to keeping the birds and the
closed
trees
last
twittering.
month. No, they closed this month. They closed December on it. And the Masseys left in November.
Yeah, I saw their cars leaving on the truck as they loaded
Did
them
you?
up.
I
I was
didn't see that.
going off to my barn, I see this big vehicle loading their cars on, so I assumed they
Oh
were
my
heading off.
goodness.
Where did they go?
Well, they have property in
Take that over.
Palm Beach and Nantucket.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were golfers anyway,
They were golfers? Really?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But the scary thing is that we never got any kind of an easement for the road
Pretty sure they were
between
golfers.
you
For
and
the which?
them.
But no, it turns out that the thing that looks like it's developable down by the river is not.
That one piece is preserved, is that it?
That's up by the road.
I do think the Pulsipers did create an easement between.
Oh, the Bossifers did, yes, they did.
The Curtis, yes, so
Look
that
at it.
easement
Josh
apparently
is on it.
is
He's like, I'm gonna pause
in
this.
place, is what I understood.
Yes, I think I did that.
Yeah.
I
Just
forgot
perhaps
to.
it's taking
Amanda
over that
Smith knows all that
property.
stuff.
Yeah.
Everything grandfathered in.
Renovation.
Yeah.
But
Really? Like,
someone keeping
Amanda
track of all
knows
those
all.
records, like,
There is
there
an
should
easement
be,
there
like,
done by-
copies of
done by
any of
Kraus
those legal
and done
documents,
by,
all the easements.
Nat and Holly.
Mm-hmm.
Is that an active easement?
Well, you know,
The
the
ECTA,
people who
yeah.
would have them are the people who hold the easements. I mean, you know, like there's a trail association, there's Greenbelt. Greenbelt owns most of the Massey Woods, except for these lots. And,
Well, also the planning board, that nice woman in the planning board, but Hamilton's so screwed up with half of its action.
which nice woman in the planning board?
I can't remember her name.
In
She's
Hamilton?
the one that, been there forever, and you can ask her any kind of question. And she's in the planning board, she was in the planning board office. But Hamilton's gotta get its town hall back organized, because half of them are in the patent
German,
house.
I know.
And they get all pissy with you if they come in there.
Yeah.
But I really think that we ought to be paying attention to making sure that that stays open.
Well, I'm gonna try and be nicer to these people than I was to. I mean, I don't know what happened, we just never did, you know?
No, I know. I worked with Mark Massey when the Scott property became in question. So it was Freddie and Susie and Mark, not Elizabeth. I never knew Elizabeth till Waldingfield started. And Mark was pretty complicated to work with, I thought. Wasn't exactly
I wouldn't know if I
warming
fell
and
for it.
talking about things. So I really think we should, I don't mind checking on that.
But, I do know that the Pulsipers have a thing through, I don't know exactly what that constitutes.
I understood it as an easement between the Sprouse's property and the Pulsifers, where you come along the tree line back from the track, the railroad track. You come through Bird's Reservation, you can come along and then get out onto Waldingfield Road. I'll see if I may have it actually in a map.
It would be interesting.
Yeah.
And then the Eddies too.
Kurt definitely
Mary.
has it.
Huh?
Kurt definitely has it. Right.
Yeah.
So,
And they were very good friends with the Masseys.
yeah.
Are those ECTA easements?
Hmm?
Are they ECTA easements?
Mhm.
There, yeah. So ECTA controls the paper.
Oh, yes, that is something, I think, I don't know, we used to ask it, I don't know if it happens anymore, that everyone who hunts be members of the Trail Association. Because, I mean, they do take care of a lot of trails that we use, and, it's worth it, it's cheap, what's it, $50 a year or something
I
like
think
that?
it's less than that for an individual.
35 for an
The
individual.
tags were a good idea, we talked about
I miss
that.
the green tags myself, and the green tags for your dog.
Well, you mean the tags you have to have on you when you go?
Right, yeah,
We had that, and then we gave it up because it's impossible to police. I mean, somebody's standing at the
I
gate,
know,
like,
but it's a message.
checking in.
But it's kind of, if you thought you had to have it, then there may be more inspired.
Yes, I think that's right.
You know,
When you're
Yeah.
tired or your bridle, it just.
Yeah, we did,
you
the
have
Trail
one, you
Association always had these
Yeah.
plastic
Yeah.
things
Send
for
It
quite
does
a
send
few
a
years.
message, it's true,
Yeah.
you know.
Dogs and horses,
You
yeah.
can't.
That was what Joan Appleton looked
Yeah.
for.
Oh my
She
God,
was
and she would have
patrolling.
she'd have signs up with so much writing on them and nobody ever read them, you know, telling you what you can do or what you can't.
Yeah, exactly. She used to go around in a little scooter and you couldn't produce that tag. Out she went.
But you know, there are a lot of amazing photographs that should be gotten together into these books that we're talking about. Like there's one of Colonel Appleton and Mrs. Appleton, and she in a bowler, as I recall.
Yeah.
But on these fancy Irish horses, and a lot of those old pictures that must exist somewhere.
Sure.
Neil has done a very good, Neil Jr. has done a very good job of trying to pull together a lot of the images from his father's collection.
And so where are they?
Well, he did one short film for
Oh no, I saw that,
That's
the
good,
steeplechase.
which was fantastic,
Yes.
right? But he has, and every once in a while he'll get inspired to sort of
Yeah, he probably has
organize
access
them.
to
But he has
a
a lot of
stuff.
stuff, and he's very good about not just saying, well, that was
Yeah.
then, this is now, you know?
Wasn't that at the one in museum?
He Yeah, I think he gave a lot of it
Yeah.
when that was a thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm sure I got it all back and all that stuff. So.
Yeah.
Do you wanna close us out, Anne, with one of your favorite memories of being in the countryside here?
One of my favorite countryside memories. I don't know what I can think of. I just remember it was fantastic growing up around here. It really was. And I can't imagine now. Kids don't go outside and play. We had just everywhere to go and play. I remember we used to climb all over the roofs of the barns.
It's amazing everybody survived, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, yes, really, almost. But I realize now how much time people spend looking at things, screens. Oh my God. Of course, I haven't watched television since November 5th, because I just refuse to even turn it on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No. So I think it's a good habit to break yourself out. But it is a shame. We had so much fun. We just went everywhere. We used to bike everywhere. We used to ride our ponies everywhere.
Yeah.
We always thought it was super fun to ride our ponies and then take the bridles off and just let them run home.
That would really be a great Instagram. Do you have any of those?
That's a fun memory.
But you know, you learned to ride when you just did stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And I never could believe people taking lessons.
Did you guys have insurance policies back then? Like you had to have insurance policies for riders and stuff like that? Or not?
Did we?
Yeah. Everybody just showed up and rode.
I don't think so.
But Anne, you must have taken lessons when you were eventing.
Oh, well, I did. Yeah,
Yeah, you did.
We
Dressage.
we'd ride with Toonie and people like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, we did that, for sure.
Because you competed for many, many years.
Yes, I did. But I really was basically, unlike my sister who was really good, I was kind of a seat of the pants rider. But no, what I did, I improved.
You were a judge too for the
And when I went to
events.
boarding school, they had horses. And I think I was in the riding club. And then you had to take lessons. You know, what else was there to do? So,
Which school did you go to?
not many people have even heard of it. It's in southern Virginia, not Madeira, not Foxcroft. It's called Chatham Hall.
Yep.
Nobody's ever heard of it,
We're
right?
up in Baltimore, so.
You probably went to Foxville.
That was Susanna's country, Garrison Forest.
Those big country.
But,
Steeplechase, Jesus, those.
no, so nobody's ever heard of the school, but it's a good school. It's a good
Yeah.
school. And in those days, people used to get into really good colleges from there. I haven't noticed that happening so much anymore.
So different now.
But
Well,
so as far as really formally riding, I don't think of taking lessons, I don't think that ever happened until I went to boarding school. And then when I did come back here from living in Europe, we took lessons, we had Toonie in town.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was fun over at Hamilton Farm.
That's nice.
So I really don't know if there's anyone curious about anything else. No?
I'm just really grateful to be able to ride through your property.
Well,
It's
please do.
amazing. I mean, who gets to do
Don't
that?
forget,
We
come
get
over
to
and
do
ride.
that. It's really wonderful. Absolutely
That's
wonderful.
great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And as I said, the driveways are available all year round. It's just that, you know, a lot of the trails are not. And some of our trails are actually taken care of also by the Trail Association, so please keep that in mind. Trail Association's a good cause. And it's really important, it's really good.
It's very
And it's very professionally run now. Unlike the day when Suzanne and I but you know, it's everything grows.
Hope nobody ever looks at those records.
I think we have, what, 600 members or something like that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I know their annual publication could use a lot more names in it, so it would really be good to
Yes.
have everybody join.
Yeah.
It would, and it used to be required, right?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We should- We do ask people.
We've actually, Mary and I were having this conversation not that long ago, because the ECTA does, sometimes try to create, specialized capital campaigns for certain trails and stuff like that, but I think, at the very bottom, we could start right off the bat with a membership. With instilling, more of a necessity to be a membership.
That's
And
great.
the green tag, even though you're not gonna have somebody out there
Well,
policing it, if you bought something in the manual, like, I have a green tag, you were like, if you thought you were supposed to have it, you were much more inclined to do it.
You
Well,
do
you know,
get
this is-
discounts at
this is
Zoomies
true,
and at
Susan,
the
but
running
we stopped
store,
having
there are
it.
some 10%
And-
discounts.
We've talked about
Because we
it so
couldn't
many
police it.
times, yeah.
But on the other
Yeah.
hand, I think you're right, having
We
it
get the
says
stickers.
something.
It just says something.
Stickers,
It's
just
true.
you
Like
have
stickers.
it,
It's on the
whether
front.
you carry it or not, at
Yeah,
least
I still
it's
have
the
mine
idea
from
that you're
years
supposed to
ago.
do it,
Yeah.
because then we can start,
If you do it like that, then it doesn't matter the cost, you can just do, it doesn't have to have every year, you used to have every year on it, just,
Oh, yeah.
have the tag,
Yeah.
you know?
yeah.
And you
Yeah,
have
they
the-
definitely-
Yeah,
we should
definitely
talk about
doing
doing that.
things, but-
It's like a
but it's
badge.
hard, we
Yeah,
like
we
to-
talked about that.
from the Hunt's,
Like a badge.
from the Hunt's point of view, it is on our subscription form that
There's like
folks
50
should
of those
be
in the
a
catalog.
member of
Mhm.
the ECTA and Greenbelt and
Mhm.
trustees and the MFHA.
But it
You
doesn't
know, and you
seem like
can't
you have to,
mandate-
it looks
Well,
optional.
you used to really kind of like, you had to
The
check it out.
Greenbelt has a separate?
I thought you just
I
had
will
one.
say,
No, I didn't know.
no, I hereby say that I am a member of all these things, and you would check them off, but now, sometimes with everything online, you don't even get subscription forms for half the
Yeah.
people that even fill it out.
Right.
If you get a waiver signed, which is very important, for everyone.
Yeah,
you do
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
But, it is, some of these organizations, it's hard enough to get people to pay a cap, right, sometimes, and then you're just like, oh, you have to be members of all these things. It's hard to mandate all of them, it's
It is, yeah.
important, and I think we should absolutely do it. The MFHA is gonna mandate that we're all members of the MFHA going forward, so that is absolutely, you aren't considered a subscriber unless you're a member of that, but,
Should be.
there are so many people who hunt with us that just cap, I think that's, it's one thing with the subscribers, you can do that, you can follow up on that a lot easier.
Yeah.
But the general equestrian community is, I think that it's a
But
lot
you
easier
have a
to get
list of the
membership
people who are
drive.
capping, right?
Absolutely.
So
That's-
even if you see somebody done 5 times or more, then they've got.
Or I think we just, we just share
I think we just need to
resources
talk
with
to
you in
remind
terms
people
of
that we're
how,
here
how do
because
we,
of this.
If it was something that you
get
attach to
these
your
people,
riding
because you're not
hat,
gonna get everybody to
you have to
donate
put your
money
hat
to
on.
Causeway,
No.
where we're not even allowed to go, like, it's not,
Yeah.
you're not gonna get as much as you are if you start with basic membership and see
Basic
where you're at,
membership should be, yeah. It's $35.
That's just my feeling.
It's not
Jack,
not
yeah.
a big thing, it's individual membership.
But it
And,
becomes
When we
more
go to
makes a
training, we
difference.
remind
all the
people
others
to
MFH.
don't, to,
Oh, it
you
does
know,
become
pay
a lot.
donation.
And this,
It's
and
not
that,
enough,
you know,
but
like,
we
what
try to
else?
remind them.
No, it's,
Massachusetts.
When you think about when these guys were, well, you guys were.
Oh,
so
okay.
Yeah,
they
the-
jumped into the field and everything.
Trustees give you a sticker for your car.
No filters, no whistles, no
I just don't
nothing,
put it
just
on.
have a good
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Anne, for your.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Better speaker, but I don't want to do that very much.
No,
Yeah, this is great.
We have a smorgasbord of snackies,
Yeah,
so.
there's
Oh my
a lot of,
goodness.
Pringle.
And a lemon tart and gluten-free brownies.
Which are awesome.
Gluten-free brownies.
I tasted them, they're really good.
Coffee cake.